for tuning in. Today, we're exploring the intersection of creativity and financial empowerment because building a successful brand isn't just about great design. It's also about making smart financial choices and feeling confident in those decisions. I'm excited to welcome Sarah Confessore to the show today. Sarah is the Senior Director of Packaging and Vendor Relations at Canopy USA, where she blends creative vision with strategic execution to lead high-impact branding and packaging initiatives. With a background spanning the cannabis and apparel industries, Sarah brings deep expertise in graphic arts, packaging development, and vendor management. Known for her collaborative leadership style, she drives cross-functional teams to deliver standout results on time and on budget. Passionate about process improvement, she's always looking for ways to enhance efficiency, reduce costs, and elevate brand experiences. So Sarah, can you take us back to the beginning? What was your path to how you got to where you are today?
Sure. I started out wanting to be a fashion designer. I wanted to put beautiful clothes on the runway and become, the next big name in Fashion Week. And that's the path that I studied. And I moved to New York right after graduation to be the next top fashion designer. And that didn't go quite the way that I wanted it to. I did start working in the fashion industry, and I worked pretty successfully in the fashion industry for many years in terms of paying my rent, being able to continue living in New York. That's more than many people are able to do, especially in creative, what can often be lower paying creative jobs. But no, I never was in Fashion Week. I worked for a lot of companies that had sold to a lot of very mass market retailers, but I did that for many years.
Okay. So what was your defining moment, if you will, when you decided that you were ready to lead at a higher level?
I I think I sort of fell into that, honestly. I was at the time I was working for Sears Holdings. I had moved from design of clothing over into the packaging side, which is where I still am today. And that gave me the opportunity to start exploring how packaging changes perception of a product and all of those things. But then my manager just up and left with no notice. Well, I mean, with notice, but we weren't really expecting it to happen. She got an opportunity she couldn't pass up. And the organization came to me to lead the team, and I sort of had no idea what I was doing. But I seemed to be good with people, and I had worked under she was a great leader. I then was moving up to a higher level department leader who was excellent and very much shaped the way that I thought about how I wanted to lead teams and develop people as well.
That sounds amazing. And how did that, obviously that worked out pretty well for you, but how did you feel when that happened?
It was honestly very scary. I had some self-doubt, but I definitely consider myself a people person. I really put a lot of energy into trying to build a team that could deliver what our goals were, what we were trying to achieve, rather than just, doing I felt more that my job now had become facilitating others to do their jobs rather than really, definitely sort of the opposite of micromanagement. Enabling good builders so that we end up with a beautiful end structure rather than trying to build it all myself.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So when you were doing all of that, were you thinking all about your financial future when you picked up the new job, or was it more of you were kind of thrust into it, or?
I was sort of thrust into it. I'm not gonna lie, that was the first time that I really felt like I had enough money. I mean, nobody ever has enough money. You always find ways to spend the money that you have, of course. But the fashion industry, especially when you're talking about mass market and such, it's notoriously low paying. And I was working for a lot of smaller companies at first. And so that was the first time that I finally felt like, oh, wow, I can actually start to save some things. Oh, wow, there's this 401k program. I can actually use it. And wait, they match? What's that? Wow, that's exciting. And so that's really, I did know what a 401k was, but that was the first time that I actually had enough money to be doing more than just like, here's $3 I'm squirreling away this month, and starting to actually think about what a financial path would look like for me. It was the first time I really kind of had hope that I would ever be able to retire. Still don't know what that looks like, but I'm working on it. So
So that sounds pretty cool. So in the beginning, you kind of understood the package that you had from the companies that you were working for, but the whole thought of, oh, they're offering me a retirement, it just really didn't mean much to you at that time because you were making so little. Or
yeah, I just really didn't, they're definitely, I mean, I can remember in the early days of my career, I had a good friend that I had moved to New York with, and she and I would literally, we had a change jar, and we would put our loose change, because we still paid with paper money. I don't know, back in the day. And we would put our loose change in the jar. That jar, when it was full, was about enough for us to go out and get 2 beers. And that was like our entertainment fund. That's how tight money was. I was definitely looking at well over 50% of my disposable income, after taxes, was going to just to rent, not including utilities or transportation, the subway to work or anything like that. Not even talking about, I didn't have a cell phone at that point. That was pre-cell phones, but still, I did not have a lot of extra cash. So I tried to save a little, but I was budgeting to down to the last penny just to get through my days. So uh that definitely was but even that, I think, was very defining for me. That really shaped the way that I think about money and the way that I think about how I want to spend my money. And I still find, I definitely admit, I buy too much online. I shop a little too much and things like that. That being said, I do think about the same kinds of decisions that I did back then, which is, do I really need this? What is this going to do for me? Is this just something that I want? And if I want it, can I justify the cost of it? And sometimes that answer is yes, absolutely. That answer is yes, a lot more now than it was back then. But I still try to make those rational decisions or questions for myself before purchasing. And that's just a learned habit from when I didn't have when I wasn't making a lot of money, when I didn't have money to support, my future and my bigger picture, let's say.
well, that's so cool because a lot of women in their early careers don't have that vision. So was that something you learned from your family, or just something you picked up when you started your first job?
Definitely learned some financial common sense from my family. I was very, very lucky. My parents, we grew up very middle class, but my parents felt it was very important to cover my college tuition, the cost of college for both my sibling and I. And we were able to start our careers with no debt, which
Nice.
now I'm a little older, so it's a little different than some, the crisis that a lot of millennials and Gen Z are facing with college debt. But not having that meant that I could at least really focus on my true expenses and my true budget. But I also admit I got into a little college credit card trouble and had to admit to my dad that I had done that and work with my dad to get that paid off. And that was a very humbling moment. And I really have worked hard. I can't say I never carry a credit card balance, but I always carry a credit card balance that I know that I have a plan to pay down. And I know why I've gotten to that point on a credit card balance. It's not just, oh, wow, how did I get that high? So I'm very planful with my money now.
That's cool. So how would you define financial independence?
I think that really comes from I first of all, I think that's being able to financially not have to financially rely on others. Um, Now that gets a little bit more complex when you're talking about a relationship, a spouse or a partner or something like that. That also is much more complex when you're talking about any kind of a business arrangement as well. But at least understanding your role in that relationship and being able to depend on yourself for financially for the pieces that you're responsible for. And so like if I have an agreement with a spouse that I'm going to cover the rent and the groceries, and they're going to cover, I don't know, utilities and vacations and children's costs or whatever, you know, understanding that piece and being able to hit the goals that I want to hit. And those goals may be big retirement goals, and those uh,
Mhm.
goals could include things like stock purchases and all sorts of really great investment strategies and such. But those goals could also just be pay off $100 per month in credit card debt, or keep my credit, even something as simple as keeping my credit card debt at zero or level to where it is. Being able to hit those goals and excel in hitting those goals, whatever, however big or small they may be, in my mind, that's what financial independence is being able to manage that money in in a beneficial way for my lifestyle.
Wow, that's such a great way of looking at it. So it sounds like you have a pretty good relationship with money then.
I try. I think it's I think it's a relationship. That's the perfect word, right? Because no relationship is perfect. And there are definitely times that things come up and surprise us. And we're not always going to be in the perfect, we may need at times we need a little relationship counseling or whatever that may be. And that really should apply. I think we would all do better if we could apply that to our thoughts about finances too. There may be times when we need a little bit of help. And I think that knowing when you need help and asking for help, whether that be from a family member or going and getting a loan, or in certain cases talking about do I need to look at bankruptcy filings or whatever that may be. I'm not sure that that's necessarily a true sign of not being financially independent. That I think those are all signs of being very aware of your situation and trying to figure out how to better that situation. I don't think success is marked by saying, "Oh, I'm a billionaire." I think success is marked by going, "Hey, I am doing better than I was, and I'm on my plan and I'm on my path." Or if I hit a setback, it set me back, but now I'm back on course again.
Wow, that is amazing. I love that it's a relationship and you should treat it like a relationship. I hadn't heard it discussed that way before. Um, so you had mentioned something about stocks and that sort of thing. So do you actively invest or is that something down the
Um,
road?
I luckily have, as I have grown through my roles, been able to put some money aside, and I work with a financial planner who manages a small but nice portfolio for me, that's helping me get towards goals I have kids, so I want them to go to college. So I'm starting to plan for that. I live in New York City, but I have pipe
Mm.
dreams that someday I might actually own here. Um, Own a house, not just an apartment. And also just as I'm thinking about, I'm a woman of an age and I am thinking about retirement at some point too. So I am working with that financial planner to make sure that I'm continuing to expand my finances to achieve my goals in a way that honestly I don't necessarily have bandwidth for myself with a full-time job and kids and a busy life.
That's good that you recognize that and because there's a lot of women out there that don't take that step and they kind of try to do it all themselves and then it really doesn't happen. So um so what was it that made you decide to take that step and actually go and find the financial planner and then do the research to make all that work for you?
It was honestly because of a gift, a small gift that a family member had given us, and we kind of sat there and said, "I don't even know what to do with this. This seems like a silly amount." I mean, no amount of money is a silly amount. I don't really mean to say that, but it's
Mhm.
a silly amount to just put in savings and get what you're 1-2% on. It certainly was not an amount we were going to spend down in a year, or anything like that. And so it was meant to be a little bit of a longer, a gift with some longevity. So we really wanted to figure out how we could make that happen. We got this connection. We had spoken to another financial planner who just wasn't quite a right fit, but then we'd gotten this connection. And when we started to talk to, we just had this one piece, I just had this one piece in mind. But then when I started talking to her about, oh yeah, wait, I do have a 401k from here and a 401k from there. And oh yeah, I should be consolidating those. And actually, if she's looking at that and managing that, she can also keep a better eye on, like, if 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 this fund isn't performing as well, I don't have to keep watching that. That can be moved. And so I have somebody else keeping track of all that in a consolidated way, so that my money, I have more money working together to stretch further in terms of what it can gain.
That's amazing. A lot, like I say, a lot of women just don't even know where to start. So I mean, it was nice that you had that family member that gave you that gift to even get that ball rolling. So what advice would you give to women out there who are just starting to get their feet wet with financial independence, and maybe they've relied on a partner in the past, but they really shouldn't do that. They should really look at something for themselves.
I think it's really important to have something for yourself, even if you're in a healthy relationship and everything is going well. Even if you're a stay-at-home mom, and I realize stay-at-home mom, no income, right? But I think there are ways that you can, assuming you've got a good relationship, you can talk to your partner about what the down the line looks like. There's no retirement fund on stay-at-home moms. Well, that's not the role that I am sitting in my family. I think just looking at how you can start to carve out a little bit of plan for yourself. If it's $10 a paycheck, if it's saying, okay, listen, spouse, you're putting $100, whatever that number is, $100 a week in, or a paycheck, into the savings account. Can we put 10% of that, just $10 a week, into a separate account that is mine, that I can manage, that I can learn, that I can better learn my financial independence, and give you the opportunity to manage that and to work with that. And as that grows, look at other opportunities. Is this something that I can is this getting to a point that I could do something more than just have it sitting in a savings account? I think if you're working at any kind of job that offers any opportunities, take advantage of that match. I would love to say max out your contribution and match the full amount, but I can't do that. I am not putting in my full capability of 401k every year, just because I have 2 children that I'm raising. That being said, if you have a match, take advantage of the match. If you have any kind of employee retirement benefits, take advantage of them. Look into them, see what the opportunities are. I think, unfortunately, there's less and less happening in the modern world that we live in, but if it's there, you should certainly be taking advantage of it, because kind of money you're giving away.
Mhm. Agreed. And I mean, that's always been my philosophy when I worked at a company. I I would say to people, why are you leaving money on the table? And they're like, what are you talking about? Take advantage, please, of the 401k. And they just, that some people just couldn't grasp that I've got all these things that I need to do, but they're giving you free money.
So circling back to leadership responsibility, that's something that I always coach the people that I manage is make sure you're taking advantage of all of the benefits. Look at the benefits package, don't just assume. And also, speaking of benefits, use every one of your vacation days because
Mm,
it's a different kind of money on the table, but that's money on the table too. If you
yes,
are not a vacationer, use that for a side hustle. Do whatever you need to do, but don't leave that money on the table.
agreed. So is there anything else, other messages that you'd like to share with women in our audience that about either how exciting it is to work in your industry or why they might want to or not, if that makes sense?
It's an interesting industry. I work in cannabis and I work for a multi-state operator who is functioning, grow everything from growing cannabis through to retailing it, making products, retailing it in several states. And it has been a wild ride of an industry. I think one of the things that's most interesting about the industry is it is changing at a rate that is kind of unbelievable to me in relationship to like when I was in the fashion industry. I worked for Sears, I worked for Gap. Those are well, Sears is gone now, but Gap is still a pretty relevant company and pretty on the edge in terms of staying relevant and moving forward, and yet still change and things very, very slow at those companies. The company that I'm at is not the same company that it was six months ago, and definitely not the same company as 6 years ago. So it's a very, very fast paced, very, very constantly learning, constantly evolving. So if you are somebody who's a real go-getter who wants to come in and do things and learn and be really engaged, it's a great industry. If you are someone who wants to come in and like know what you're doing and just keep doing the same thing day in, day out, it is not the best industry. There's too much change constantly.
And we have time for just one more question. So if there was one message that you could give to the women that are listening today about owning your own independence, what would it be?
That's a great question. Great question. Um, I think, I think really it's important to be yourself. And I think that's very hard as women. There are so many messages about what we're supposed to look like, what we're supposed to act like, how old we're supposed to be, uh, all of these things that dictate what's right for women, and that changes depending on the scope. A professional woman is supposed to look and act and be totally different than a mom, but meanwhile, that's the same person. And I think it's very easy to allow, I've definitely done it in my lifetime, to allow those messages to kind of constrict who you are, even to let employers or managers start to dictate a bit how you act and who you want to be in your role. And I think that's a really great time to say, hey, this is not who I am. If I don't align to the company's go to if I'm not aligned, if my personal uh brand, my personal self-worth, all of the things that I believe in, my morals and code of ethics and all of those things do not align to the company that I'm working with, and that company kind of wants me to be somebody else, it's probably time to start looking for a new job and looking for a new direction, and try to stay true to who you are, to what's important to you. If financial independence is important, put $10 a week, whatever that might be, put $1 a week. Start talking to your friends and seeing how they're doing finances and get some advice. That's how I found my financial planner, is I was talking to a friend. And see if you have friends who are doing really well in finance and in their own financial planning, and see if they've got tips for you. Just get started, be who you are, and really kind of take control of your own journey.
That is amazing. That is so helpful to everyone that's listening to this program today. And I want to thank you so much for coming on. And for those that have listened, if you really like this podcast, feel free to click the like, to subscribe, and let your friends know that we are here. So thank you all for coming today.